Well, hello, UMT business undergraduate majors. My name is Guy Seehee. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to talk a little slower than normal speed today, and I'll be using fairly simple vocabulary because I know you're students of English. And I have included quite a few good old American idioms. So see how many you can count. I am an EdTech entrepreneur. EdTech means education, ed, technology, tech. And I own a company that makes educational software. But I am also many other things. I am an All-American Soapbox Derby champion, and I am an award-winning industrial designer, polar explorer. I've been to the North Pole twice, and I'm a desert explorer. I've been to several of the world's great deserts, including the Taklamakan. I'm a mountain climber, the main character in a best-selling video game, and I'm a conspiracy buff. And most importantly, I'm a husband and father of four wonderful children. And yes, I live in Tokyo, and my beautiful wife is Japanese. That's enough of my story for today. My subject today is how to make $1 billion in the free mobile game industry. Doesn't that sound fantastic? How to make $1 billion. I'm excited. I hope you are too. I'm gonna, that is real American English right there. I'm gonna show you a case study of success. And this case study is also kind of a roadmap for me because I have a secret life as a free mobile game developer. So, how do you make $1 billion in the free mobile game industry? Does anyone know? We have now 61 people on with us. Anybody have an idea? That's
We have
okay.
an answer here.
Oh, what is it?
Yes, it mentions in-game monetization.
Exactly. Does anyone know this man? Just by looking at his face or the clue in the background? I'm a big fan of this man. But before I tell you that man's $1 billion story, there are a few things about free mobile games that I think you need to understand first. And these things may come as a big shock to you if you're not familiar with mobile games. What I am about to say is based on solid research and data. 1/3 of all living people on Earth play free mobile games, an average of 8 hours a week. Some of these people are playing 40 hours a week. I was shocked when I first heard that. 95% of players never pay anything. 5% of the players make 99% of all game purchases. Housewives with children spend more than any other type of players. In fact, the average age of free mobile game players is 35 years old. That's the average age. In certain countries like Japan, it's over 40. Free mobile games are growing much faster than any other type of game. Free mobile games are the red bit in this chart we're looking at. Last year, players spent $80 billion on free mobile games. That's what $80 billion looks like. You see the truck and the little man down in the front corner. Each one of those stacks is $100 million. Now back to this man. This man personally got 3.5 of those big money stacks last July when he sold his game company. This man is Serdar Sahin. He's the founder of Peak Games in Istanbul. In 2010, Serdar joined up with this man, Hakan Bas. In just 10 years, they built Peak Games into a $1.8 billion company, almost $2 billion. How did they do it? The answer is they localized, proven, free game monetization mechanics and focused on fast-growing MENA smartphone markets. That's a mouthful, so let's break that down piece by piece. They localized. That means they adjusted to the local languages and cultures. They localized proven free game monetization mechanics. Your student correctly identified in-app purchases. In the industry, these are called the game mechanics. It's why someone makes an in-app purchase. There are 7. One of these is where the money is. The other 6 are what motivate the money part. So in these games, if you spend some money, you can compress time and see more of the game or get more of the game than the free players. So money is a kind of time machine in a way. They localized proven free game monetization mechanics, and they focused on fast-growing MENA smartphone markets. MENA stands for Middle East, North Africa. These markets were developing rapidly in terms of smartphone ownership. And so at the beginning, the smartphone penetration was small back in 2010. So the Silicon Valley game companies kind of ignored these markets. The Japanese game companies kind of ignored these markets. Serdar and Hakan localized and went straight at these markets. That was very clever. How did they do that? This part gets really interesting. The first thing they did was buy a free game that was losing money. But Serdar and Hakan knew something that the original maker did not know. They knew how to add proven game mechanics. And that is exactly what they did. And then they did it again. They bought another free game that was losing money. And they did it again, and again, and again, and again, and again. You get the picture? They kept taking these cheap games that were losing money and changing them into cheap games that made money. Well, making money always attracts attention. Peak was getting a hot reputation. Zynga from Silicon Valley, one of the biggest game companies in the world, approached Peak and bought all of Peak's cheap free games for $100 million. Wow, most people would think, end of the rainbow, we did it. So now it's 2015, 5 years into their journey. Serdar and Hakan have got $100 million, but they got no games. They sold them all to Zynga. So did they retire and split the money 50-50? No way. They hired the best game developers they could hire. They hired the best marketing people they could hire. They went all in. You gotta love these guys. Taking everything they had learned, the partners started making not cheap games. They made the best free mobile games that they could possibly imagine. This one, Toon Blast, knocked it out of the park. It's a huge global hit. Toon Blast alone pulls in about $5 million every month, and it's still growing fast. Remember, we're talking about a free game. 95% of the players never spend a dime. How does Toon Blast, a free game, get $5 million a month? The answer is simple. Yes, it has game mechanics, and yes, it's a good game. But the answer is really simple. It has 6 million players. That's the answer. There's a mathematical formula between your number of active players and how much money's going to come out from the 5%. You see how this is working now? 95% don't pay. You might think, oh, we should increase the number of payers to 10%. That's our success formula. Forget it. It doesn't work that way. You need the 95%. You need them not to pay. That's the psychology of free games. The 5% come out naturally. So you just need a lot of players. A good game with proven mechanics, which you don't need to invent. They already exist. If you can get 5 million players, your game is almost surely worth $1 billion. Who knows how long it will last, but right now, publicly listed companies like Zynga have shares that are priced 25 to 40 times revenue. What about profits? Forget about profits. The stock market doesn't care about that. It only wants to see revenue growth. That's why Zynga has to buy more developing game companies, because when they buy it, they get to add it to their growth story. Zynga's stock is priced at 35 times revenue. Peak sold for 20 times revenue. Zynga made 15 times revenue in a day. That's why they can afford to pay almost $2 billion. So now Sidar and Hakan have got $1.8 billion, but no company. Will they retire this time? I don't think so. These guys are true entrepreneurs. Thank you for listening to my happy success story, the story of Sidar and Hakan, and how they beat Silicon Valley at their own game. I hope one of you will use this knowledge and use the knowledge of your local language and culture and create $1 billion free mobile game company. Pakistan has more than 200 million population, and the smartphone penetration is rising every year. It's an ideal market. It's time for questions.
Thank you so much, and it was a really interesting talk. I would like to ask the question. I have been playing games in the past, but honestly, so how can we get a knowledge basically about all this buying a game or making a game, and then and how to operate it to earn the money?
That's an interesting question. I think the chance to buy a used game and convert it, I think that ship has sailed. I think that train has left the station. What those fellows did, they were pioneers in that, and they scoured the earth for opportunities. So it's very unlikely there are some reasonably good free games that you could buy. So I think I wouldn't waste any time on that. What I would do is, since you don't have any game development skill, you're not a story writer, you're not a game development expert, you're not a game coder, but you do something. You can do the accounting, and every company is going to need that. So I would advise you to find some starting game companies and offer your services to them just so you can get involved with them. That's how I would do it. And then as you stay with those people, be positive, right? They're not looking for reasons they're going to fail. They're looking for the dream of success. So help them find the road to success. Because kids, this is not easy. It sounds easy. It's a lot of work. Staying up late, not having time to play with friends and party. I mean, basically, you become one with the dream of the company. So that takes a lot of energy, and it's good to have people around you who share your dream. Great question, Zane. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. That was quite an interesting answer. Thank you.
My pleasure.
And we have another question from Ms. Rabia Salim, and she asks, are Google Play and Apple Store the only app stores one could keep an eye on?
You don't need to have mobile apps in the App Store anymore. The only reason to be in the App Store today is if you want to offer that impulse buying that a free game requires. Like, oh, I just need to beat this level. Okay, just this once, I'll buy some crystals. And then you're hooked. Just this once. And
Okay.
that was great. Thank you very much for asking that.
We have another question from Ms. Tuba, and she's asking that what is the key element that attracts users to download a game according to your experience?
Well, this is a very interesting question. If I answer it very specifically, what caused you to download it? Someone recommended it. As always, personal recommendation. That is the number one surefire way to get someone to download a game. Oh, you've got to try this. And it doesn't even need to be someone you know very well. It could be someone who you know about, such as a personality. That's a great question, though. Thank you.
And I just wanted to ask you a question. Okay, we are going through a very critical time. And you think that it has the potential to saturate the gaming industry? Because now there is too much focus on the gaming because of the time, the confinements, the quarantine. So is there any chance of it getting saturated?
I think the trend is still in the early stage of penetration. We're still in the early stage here, and of course in Pakistan, you've got faster growing middle class and a faster growing rate of smartphone adoptions than, say, a mature market like Japan.
Great, great. We have some literature students here, and one of the questions that I have by Amina, she's asking about if we have certain ideas, creative ideas, and could we write some stories which have a particular plot? To whom we will share our ideas, like company owners or someone else?
I'm not sure which city is strongest for it, but wherever you have your computer science programs, wherever they are strongest in your country, there are going to be students who are focusing themselves toward game development. In the game industry, there are very specific functions, jobs. One of them is writing the stories, and it's really important because everyone else, like the accountants and the game developers, the coders, they can't do that, right? They might not even know a good story. They might have to ask their friend, is this a good story? Because they don't speak that language. They speak a different language. And then there's someone else called a game designer. They don't even know how to code, but they study games. That's what they do at college or university. And they study why ones are successful and ones aren't. And they learn how to design the concept of a game. And the game developer needs something to develop. And most often it's a story. Now, some of these games, the story gets thrown on later. Like Toon Blast doesn't really have a story. They threw one on it later. But the class of game called RPG, role play game, they have stories, and they're great stories, like Silent Hill 2. So, to answer your question, find out where the computer science and game design degrees are being taught. Go
Yeah.
to that school or go to their posting board and offer your services free and offer to work on the project and stay up late at night, work during the day to make money and then work on this at night. And if you get a hit, you'll look back and you'll have a great story to tell everyone in years to come.
Yeah. So thank you very much. The participants have really put in a lot of good questions here, and I'm truly grateful for your participation for today. So on behalf of English Immersion team, I wish you a very good weekend. So all the best and Allah Hafiz.